How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now today we have a pretty special top 10 video. I actually, if you've been subscribed to my channel, you may know this, but I'm remaking a video that I posted back in like the middle of April. Now unfortunately I did receive a copyright strike from that video, and it got completely taken down from YouTube because one of the short clips that I used when going through the top 10 list got copyright striked. I made it private, but unfortunately YouTube still striked me. So I'm remaking the video, and today I'm just doing it with pictures. So I do apologize if it's a little bit less entertaining, but again, I do not want to get copyright striked again. So I apologize for that, but just wanted to give you a little bit of that background before we get into today's top 10 video. But we are going to be talking about, as you could tell by the title, the top 10 cars with the absolute worst fuel economy numbers from factory. Now for this list, we're looking at just the regular production average MPGs, and we're gonna basically list it by average. There were some cars that I was thinking about when researching this that didn't even make the list. So let me know if I miss anything down in the comments below. And also, while you're down there, definitely be sure to leave a like, as well as subscribe if you're new to the channel. I do car reviews, automotive news, automotive history videos, top 10 videos, a bunch of just automotive content here on YouTube. And I should be back to a daily upload schedule now that I'm a little bit more free. Anyways, getting that out of the way, I want to dive right into this list. And at number 10, we have the first generation of the Maserati Ghibli, the AM115. This Maserati made 9.1 miles per gallon on average from its 4.7 liter V8, and it actually only had a 330 horsepower from factory, and it had a rather average 0 to 60 mile per hour time of 6.8 seconds, and actually a pretty impressive top speed of 174 miles per hour. Again, it was the very first generation of the Maserati Ghibli that we know and love today, and I do love the design of this car. It's very sleek, and when you think of a classic Maserati, this should definitely come to mind. Now moving on to number 9, and also moving to the kind of exact opposite of the spectrum when it comes to body design, we have the Aston Martin Lagonda Series 2. This car is very sharp and edgy and kind of like a wedge design, and honestly, when I think of Aston Martin, me personally, I think of a nice flowing, nice curvy body lines, but this is not like some of the Aston Martins that we've seen today. Now, needless to say, this Lagonda Series 2 actually averaged 9.0 miles per gallon from its 5.3 liter V8, and had a rather unimpressive 0 to 60 mile per hour time of 9.1 seconds and a top speed of 143 miles per hour. Now moving on to number 8, we actually have the heaviest car on this list, which is very surprising considering that number 3 is like this off-road utility truck thing, which we'll get to in a second. But at number 8, we do have the Mercedes-Benz 600 Pullman 6-door Land-A-Lot W100. Now I know that's a mouthful, but I wanted to focus on this specific trim because the 6-door version of this Land-A-Lot got 8.6 miles per gallon on average compared to the 4-door version, which got a very slightly better 8.7 miles per gallon. Now these atrocious fuel economy numbers have to do with its 6.3 liter V8 and the fact that it is again 6,283 pounds, which does make it the heaviest vehicle on this list. Now surprisingly, that just under 6,300 pounds, it still had a 0 to 60 time of 10.3 seconds, so not terrible. Still pretty bad, but again, not as bad as it could be. Now at number 7, we have our first modern supercar slash hypercar on this list, and that is of course the Pagani Zonda C12S. This Pagani only got 8.4 miles per gallon from its 7 liter V12, but it had a 208 mile per hour top speed, and as well it had a very surprising 188 mile range on a full tank of gas, and that is largely due to the fact that it has a 22.5 gallon fuel tank, which is rather large for a supercar or a hypercar for those standards. It's pretty big fuel tank even for a regular car. Also, one thing that is actually pretty hilarious is that this Pagani also does break the top 10 most fuel efficient Paganis ever made, sitting at number 9, which is kind of hilarious considering that it's number 7 on the worst fuel economy numbers from a production car from factory, but considering the fact that Pagani has made a very limited number of models over its years, and the cars that they do make either have boosted or naturally aspirated V12s and they're insane hypercars, it kind of does make a little bit of sense. Now moving on, I did just want to say that the number 5 spot as well as the number 3 spot are two ties, so number 6 and number 5 are going to have the same exact average MPGs, as well as number 4 and number 3 are going to have the same exact MPGs. So I just wanted to highlight that before you started seeing some of the same numbers. But sitting in the first number 5 slot, I guess, is the Rolls-Royce Phantom 6. This Rolls-Royce averaged 8.0 miles per gallon from its 6.8 liter V12, and it weighed just over 6,000 pounds at 6,045 pounds, and had a very unimpressive top speed of only 109 miles per hour. And it actually is the most fuel inefficient four-door sedan to make it on this list. And it's another land yacht very similar to the Mercedes-Benz Land-A-Lot that we talked about before. Now, sharing that number 5 spot with the Rolls-Royce is the Ferrari F50. This F50 did also make 8.0 miles per gallon on average from its much lower displacement 4.7 liter V12. However, this Ferrari did make a peak 513 horsepower at a screaming 8,500 RPMs. The F50 also had a top speed of 202 miles per hour and was one of the first street legal Ferraris to break that 200 mile per hour mark. Also, this is one of the more quicker accelerating cars of the 1990s, and in my own personal opinion, the F50 is probably my favorite Ferrari to ever be built. And I know, you know, some people might think that it's blasphemy for me to say that the F50 is better than the F40, but again, that's just my opinions. Let me know what you guys like better down in the comments below, the F40 or the F50. Now, the first car that is tied for third place is the Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR W196S. This little Mercedes race car made 7.8 average miles per gallon from its very small displacement, and actually the smallest displacement engine on this list. It's 3.0 liter inline 8-cylinder engine. Now, considering though that it was a race car and it was made in the mid 1950s, that might not be that much of a surprise that it has such bad miles per gallon numbers. But those 310 horsepower did actually propel this little sub 2,000 pound race car to a very blistering 186 mile per hour top speed in its heyday. Now, that little Mercedes shares the number 3 spot with probably the polar opposite when it comes to vehicles. It shares it with the very bulky Lamborghini LM002. This Lamborghini LM002 made 7.8 miles per gallon and was produced from the years of 1986 to 1993. It's 5.2 liter V12, and considering that it's just over 6,000 pounds, definitely does not help it out in the fuel economy department. However, this LM002 was actually the face of the Lamborghini Militaria, which was a series of vehicles that Lamborghini built with a goal to actually enter into the military light utility market, but that ultimately did fail and they stopped making these vehicles in 1993. Now, coming in at number 2, we have another Lamborghini, but again, probably the polar opposite of the LM002. We have the Lamborghini Countach. This Lamborghini Countach made 7.0 average miles per gallon. It was pretty much the epitome of culture in the late 70s and early 80s. Now, to my surprise when researching this, the Countach actually only made 370 horsepower from factory, but considering that it's a very, very tiny and impractical vehicle, the 0 to 60 time was still a pretty impressive 5 seconds flat, and its quarter mile time from factory was 13.4 seconds. It also had an amazing top speed for its day, coming in at just over 180 miles per hour at 182 miles per hour. And honestly, who doesn't love the Countach? Movies like the Cannonball Run and, you know, other things in 80s culture really made the legacy of the Countach what it is today, and I would love to actually see one in person and hopefully be able to drive one day. They're awesome little cars. Now, before we get into number 1, I did just want to make a couple honorable mentions. Now, a list is going to pop in the video right now, and all the vehicles that you're seeing right now with all their average miles per gallon numbers, the Aventador as well as the Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport are the only ones that are still being produced today. So if you want to look at like the 2022 model year, or even I guess the 2023 model year now, the Lamborghini Aventador and the Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport are pretty much the absolute bottom or worst fuel economy you can get from a production vehicle that you can buy, I guess, from a dealership today. But again, if you're in the market for a Lamborghini Aventador or a Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport, you really don't care about fuel economy. And even with how crazy gas prices are nowadays, I don't think affects their budget that much. Also, another funny thing about these honorable mentions, the Lamborghini Aventador as well as the Lincoln Continental Mark IV, which by the way was produced back in the 1970s, are the only two vehicles on this list that actually have an average miles per gallon number in the double digits. And of course that's still 10.0 flat, which is still terrible, but I did just find that kind of hilarious. Now moving on to number 1 and the final vehicle, we have another Pagani, the Pagani Zonda F. Now this Pagani Zonda F is the only production car to actually average below 7 miles per gallon, coming in at 6.9 miles per gallon on average. And if you're looking to blame anything for those terrible numbers, I would definitely blame its 7.3 liter V12. However, when you're talking about performance, this thing is one of the best cars in the world, with a 0 to 60 time of 3.6 seconds, a 214 mile per hour top speed, and again a surprising range on a full tank of gas of around 150 miles. And that is due to the fact that the same exact 22.5 gallon fuel tank found in the C12S that we talked about before is also in the Zonda F. So that's a little fun fact that Pagani actually, used them both. I mean, they are both Zondas, so it does kind of make sense. But it's also kind of funny that, the worst production car when it comes to fuel economy in existence, you can still go pretty much like 150 miles without having to fuel up, which is pretty cool. But anyways, that's pretty much just gonna be it for today's video. Again, if you're subscribed and you saw the original video before it got taken down, I apologize for just remaking, I guess, old content. Let me know what you guys think of this list, and again, definitely let me know if I missed anything. I'm sure there's something out there that belonged on this list that I didn't include, because I tried to compile a bunch of different lists together, and there were so many cars that I thought that were going to be on the list that weren't, and there's so many cars that I didn't even think about that didn't actually make the list. So again, if I made any mistakes, let me know down in the comments below. I read pretty much all the comments, and I do appreciate all the different opinions. Also, while you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, and also click that bell icon down there to get notified every time that I post a video. It helps me out a lot as a smaller YouTuber. But like always, thank you guys so much for all the support, and I'll see you in the next one.